Hey, greetings everybody. It's your old pal Mad Dog. Um, Coming to you live today. Well, it's live to me, live now. It's not going to be when you see it, but I'm speaking to you from the new place in the house, also formerly known as Paige's room, where she has at least a third of her shit still here. But anyway, I'm affectionately calling this the Mad Dog's Bug Barn banjo studio and podcast pavilion. And we're going to be doing some work down here. If you have a serious case of arachnophobia, this is not the space for you. Paige has acquisition problems. I wonder where she gets that. But instead of things like fine handcrafted musical instruments, she's into weird shit. There are plenty of creepy crawlies down here. It's kind of cool, but it keeps the riffraff out of my room. The sound effects that sound like somebody taking the world's longest leak is an aquarium that we've had for well over 20 years. I got to think about that. It may be approaching 30. It's an aquarium in it that contains a newt that we bought when we lived in Spearfish when Paige was just a little kid, and we went down to Rapid City into the Fish Here Pet Store in the mall, one of the original OG tenants of the Rushmore Mall, and a tenant of the Southtown Mall. That's going to date you if you're a Rapid City kid. But yeah, the freaking newt, even including moving it across the state when we moved back to Sioux Falls, is still alive, and it's in the tank, and we've got a filter on it, although to look at it, I'm not sure why. I guess the water's clean, but it looks like it's been, I don't know. Yuck. Anyway, the damn newt's still alive, so we're still supporting it, and it's a good spot. We got some bookcases back here. I've got all my cookbooks on there between the two. Surprisingly, I had fewer cookbooks than I thought, but don't kid yourself, it's still a lot. It's Memorial Day weekend, and it's been a hell of a week, kids. I had to make a very rapid trip in and out of Riverton, Wyoming, which is a planes, trains, and automobiles sort of thing. Literally, you're in all of those if you include the transfer between concourses at Denver International Airport. Fly into Casper, and then you've got to rent a car, assuming that the fine folks at Enterprise actually have one. Even if they tell you they have one, doesn't mean that you're going to get one. And drive 120 miles west to Riverton. And then that's about 2 hours. It's 2-lane road in Wyoming. It's a dandy out there. There's an interesting South Dakota connection to that highway. There's a sign as you get closer to Shoshone, which is really the only town between Riverton and Casper. Hint for Wyoming travel: just because there are things that look like towns on the Wyoming map, you'll see. If you've ever driven through Powder River, Wyoming, and there's smaller towns in Powder River between there that have dots on the map, but they're not. I suppose they're towns. Whatever. It's Wyoming. They can do what they want. And believe me, they do. But there's a turnoff in a gravel road, and I have no. It's not gravel, but it's a small oiled road off of I don't know what highway it is. It's the only one between Casper and Riverton. But there's a town up there called Lysite, Lysite, and the interesting South Dakota connection is when George Sitz was captured after he killed 2 law enforcement officers in 1946, I think it was, north of Spearfish. He remained at large. He hid out in the Lee Deadwood area and actually lived for a few days in the basement of a man named Ross Dunn, who was actually an employee at the Lawrence County Jail at the time. And Sitz hid out in the crawl space basement of Ross Dunn's house, where he stole a pair of shoes to escape because he didn't have shoes, and ate canned peaches that were down there to survive. It's just, that's kind of an interesting little deal. But everybody in the Northern Black Hills was scared to death because George Sitz was let loose. I've talked to people who were around back at that time, and the word is that it just bristled with guns out there. It's just amazing. So anyway, it's a great story. But Sitz pulled the original Lawrence County hijacking and stole a car from a fellow in Deadwood, and took him with him, and I think he released him on the other side of the Wyoming border. But Sitz kept driving and made it out to Lysite and somehow got captured out there. Somebody noticed something odd, or maybe he stole something. I don't know. But Sitz was arrested at Lysite. And one of these days, God is my witness, if I get into Casper early enough and on the way to Riverton, I might just drive up there and take some pictures, because I am a George Sitz junkie. Getting home was an adventure. I nearly saw society come apart at the seams at Denver. We encountered a mechanical issue, and traveling out to places like Casper, Wyoming, and back is a little tricky. And I've learned that you always have to have a plan B, because some of the weirdest freaking things I ever see happen at airports happen to me when I'm at Natrona International, and it is international, believe it or not, Natrona International Airport in Casper or in Denver. Maybe stories for another time. But coming back, United had a mechanical issue for the connecting flight to Sioux Falls, and I'm sitting there getting messages on my phone from United updating gate changes and flight changes and time departure changes, because there was a mechanical issue and we were flying to Sioux Falls on an Airbus A320. It's about the size of a Boeing 737. It's a big plane, so you got a lot of people in there. And I always try and have a plan B in my back pocket. This plane was plan B, because believe me, if I could have changed that flight and got my ass back to Sioux Falls faster, I would have. We ended up departing about 5 to 6 hours later, and that plane was chock full of people traveling with small kids, and God have mercy on them. I'm not sure what happened. Everybody's entitled to have a bad day, and they managed to find the gate crew, the gate agents, the people that check your boarding pass and get yourself on the plane. They found at least one of them was having probably the worst day he'd been having all year. And I stood there and watched the passive-aggressive Olympics between a mom with about 3 or 4 small kids who had it, and a gate agent that was, by God, going to get his way no matter what. And she was equally convinced she was going to get her way. The issue, of course, is that they were traveling with strollers. And I mean, this is almost like watching a Hollywood movie crew move shit around, the amount of stuff these people had. You need it when you have kids. I get it. And I just kind of stood there like Hannibal Lecter and watched the whole thing unfold, because these folks had removed the gate check tags, which are for strollers, which are apparently different than those green ones, that I don't know what those are. They tear off the tab. I don't know who's keeping track of those. But strollers are a little bit different. And these folks had committed the mortal sin of removing the tags between flights. And the gate agents showed up at the very last minute to do the work, didn't have any tags, and this woman was getting on the plane, and that guy wasn't going to let her, and oh my God. In stark contrast to that, before I was standing there and watching intently out the window into the bleak darkness of the B gates at DIA, speaking with a very nice couple. I met this guy who South Dakotans are like this, and he just started chit-chatting with me, and he was on his way back. He and his wife were on their way back from Los Angeles, where they'd just flown out and dropped off their son for college and summer school, because he's starting his, I guess it'll be his junior year down there. And he had to get home, drive south down into the Jefferson, North Sioux, McCook Lake area, which is, it's really only about an hour south of Sioux Falls. But, at 1:30 in the morning, that drive's going to suck. And that drive sucks on a good day. But he had to get down there because he was leaving with his other son for Dallas, Texas. They were going to drive to Dallas the next morning. I didn't want to drive to work, and this guy was going to drive to Dallas. So anyway, you get chit-chatty. I feel bad because I didn't even introduce myself. And I figured out who they were when I got on the plane, because what they were doing is they were taking their son down to Los Angeles because he's starting college at University of Southern California, USC, and that's kind of a cool deal. Plays basketball. It was Isaac Bruns. So I'm standing there talking to Paul and Jamie Bruns, and they're just the nicest people in the world. They were happy, they were content, they were pleasant, and meanwhile, 20 feet, I don't know, more or less west of us, society was breaking down. So I'm glad I made it home. I'm also glad it's Memorial Day weekend because I need a break, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I made a great pork chop last night for Mrs. Mad Dog and I. Did a little Vietnamese kind of marinade on it, a little fish sauce, a little lime juice, little bit of sugar. I'm not afraid to use that in a marinade, and it that little vinegar, pepper. It was great. It was absolutely great. Tonight I'm going to grill a big ribeye, and I've got some glorious mushrooms from the folks down at the farmers market from Dakota Mushroom and Microgreens. And I'm not really in the microgreen market, but they've got the best mushrooms you're going to find around. I've got some big king trumpets, and those are going to get sautéed off and glazed up with some miso, maybe some soy, and maybe some garlic. So those will be a big umami boost to go with that steak. We're going to roast some potatoes and a little bit of duck fat because duck fat is muy good. Drink some wine, have a friend over for dinner, and it'll be great. In the meantime, we'll be hanging out at Cool Kid Corner, where we're having a hectic weekend. One of the cool kids has a family wedding to attend tomorrow, and Monday, of course, is Memorial Day. And for some reason, our local watering hole thinks they need to give our staff the entire day off, which is very nice and very generous. And believe me, that staff deserves it. They deserve a good day off when they can get one. And frankly, some of us just don't have to be there every damn day they're open. Don't have to, but we do. So Monday, we do have to live like a refugee, which means going to a different local watering hole, which is an unattractive proposition at best. There are other places we can go. We just don't like to go, and consequently, we're not. So Big Mike got volunteered by yours truly to hold happy hour on his deck so we can watch Jeopardy. And I'm going to make a mess of kind of a Malaysian, Asian, Thai-esque barbecued chicken wing to haul over there Monday afternoon for the cool kids to have a snack. Really glad it's Memorial Day weekend. Really glad. I needed a break, and I'm looking forward to doing cooking on my terms and making what I want, the way I want to do it. Glorious trip to the farmers market this morning. It's absolutely beautiful here in Sioux Falls. We have about 10 days like this out of an entire year. So when you get these, you punch your card and you be grateful for it. You also need to take some time this weekend, since it's Memorial Day, to be grateful. We live in a time where fighting wars is a lot like video gaming, except when people get killed. A lot of advancements in weaponry and the way war is fought, such that it doesn't involve throwing tens of thousands of bodies up against tens of thousands of bodies with lethal weapons shooting at each other with the ultimate goal of one overcoming the other. That's still the basic premise of war. It's fought differently now, and consequently, a lot of people in these day and ages don't really have a connection, or necessarily have a connection, or as close a connection to the enormous cost of conflict. And that is the loss of a family member and a loved one that creates a hole that goes on and on and on for a long time. And thank God there are people willing to serve no matter what the objective, no matter who sends them. Thank God there are people to serve. And take some time to think about and absorb that this weekend. And even if you get a chance, buy one of those poppies from the ladies auxiliary and the veteran organizations at the grocery store, and don't just give them $1. Give them $5, give them 10, give them 20. If you can afford more than that, do it. They deserve it. And just spend a little time thinking about that. Enjoy the weekend. Be grateful. I'm going to play some banjo. Going to go see the cool kids. Going to get some things prepped for dinner. Play a train song. Rock on. Thanks, everybody.